Gate agent tears pages from a child's passport. His aunt, a UN diplomat, steps off the plane. The airport terminal was bustling with the usual mix of hurried travelers, business people clutching their laptops, and families dragging oversized suitcases. Amid the chaos, little Ayan clutched his passport tightly, his small hands trembling slightly. He was only 7 years old, and this was his first international flight without his parents. His aunt, Ambassador Nadia Rayman, a respected UN diplomat known for her poise and unshakable composure, was accompanying him. They approached Gate 22, where the boarding area was crowded with passengers waiting to board Flight 817 to Geneva. Ayan's excitement was palpable. He had been talking about this trip for weeks, imagining the Swiss mountains, the chocolate, and the airplane cabin that seemed to him a magical world. But the excitement waned as they reached the gate. The gate agent, a stern-looking woman with tightly pulled-back hair and a clipboard, scrutinized every passenger with a meticulous intensity. When Ayan handed her his passport, her eyes flicked over the pages, and her expression hardened. "Sir, your passport has several damaged pages," she said, her voice cold, almost mechanical. "These are not acceptable for travel. I'm afraid you cannot board with this." Ayan's small hands tightened around the passport. "But I need to go to Geneva. It's my first flight," he said, his voice barely audible. The gate agent ignored his words. Instead, she took a pen, ripped a page from the passport, and dropped it carelessly onto the counter. Ayan gasped, a mix of fear and confusion in his wide eyes. The passport, which had been his key to the world, now looked mutilated. Nadia Rayman, who had been waiting patiently behind Ayan, stepped forward. Her heels clicked on the tile floor, her posture unyielding, radiating authority. "Excuse me," she said firmly, "what exactly are you doing to my nephew's passport?" The gate agent's gaze shifted to Nadia, but she did not flinch. "Ma'am, the passport is damaged. Regulations are regulations. We cannot allow travel with incomplete documents." Nadia's eyes narrowed. Her voice remained calm but carried the weight of decades in diplomacy. "I am a UN diplomat, currently on duty, accompanying my nephew. This passport is valid, and your action, ripping pages, is completely unacceptable." The agent hesitated, sensing the change in tone, but did not immediately comply. She was used to dealing with ordinary travelers, not someone with the presence and authority of a diplomat. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but rules are rules." Rules are meant to protect people, not intimidate children," Nadia interrupted sharply. Her voice, though controlled, cut through the murmur of the waiting crowd. People began to glance at the confrontation, sensing the tension. Ayan hid behind his aunt, tears welling in his eyes. "Aunt Nadia," he whispered, fear and embarrassment mingling in his small voice. Nadia knelt to meet him at eye level, giving him a reassuring smile. "It's okay, Ayan. We're going to fix this. Don't worry." Then she stood again and faced the gate agent. "I need you to immediately cease any further damage. You will allow my nephew to board. You are holding up an official UN travel delegation." The agent looked at Nadia, then back at the passport in her hand. She seemed torn between enforcing regulations and acknowledging the diplomat standing before her. A few colleagues hovered nearby, unsure whether to intervene or stay back. I can't just let this pass," the agent stammered, her voice losing some of its earlier confidence. Nadia's expression hardened just slightly. "You are making this a matter of bureaucracy over humanity. I am asking you, as an experienced professional, to reconsider. You will allow this child to board, or you will answer to your superiors. Now." The terminal had fallen into an unusual silence. Even the ambient noise of announcements and rolling trolleys seemed to fade as bystanders watched the standoff. Some passengers whispered to each other, pointing toward the scene. The agent swallowed hard, clearly realizing that arguing further would be futile. With a reluctant nod, she returned the passport to Ayan. "You may board, sir," she said quietly, avoiding eye contact with Nadia. Ayan clutched the passport against his chest, his relief immediate but still tinged with shock. He looked up at his aunt. "Thank you, Aunt Nadia," he whispered, his voice trembling but filled with gratitude. Nadia ruffled his hair gently. "Remember, Ayan, courage and patience go hand in hand. Today, you learned both." As they moved down the jet bridge, Nadia's presence commanded respect. The airline staff, who had initially hesitated, now made way for them, clearly aware that the situation involved more than a simple passenger complaint. Once aboard the plane, Ayan settled into his seat by the window, staring out at the tarmac. Nadia sat beside him, ensuring his seatbelt was secure and his belongings safely stowed. The little boy turned to her with curiosity and admiration. "Aunt Nadia, you were amazing back there," he said softly. "I was scared, but you didn't let them scare us." Nadia smiled, her gaze distant for a moment as she reflected on the incident. "Ayan, sometimes adults forget the humanity behind the rules. But it's our duty to stand up, calmly and firmly, when things are unjust. That is true courage." The engines roared to life, and the plane began its taxi down the runway. Ayan pressed his face against the window, watching the airport shrink behind them. His heart still raced from the ordeal, but a new sense of wonder and confidence had taken root. As the plane ascended into the clouds, Nadia looked out at the sky, her mind briefly drifting to the many countries she had visited and the countless diplomatic challenges she had faced. Yet, she realized that sometimes, the simplest victories, protecting a child's dignity, standing against injustice, were the ones that mattered the most. Ayan finally turned to her, eyes wide with awe. "Do you think I'll ever have to be as brave as you?" Nadia chuckled softly, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "Bravery isn't about fighting big battles, Ayan. It's about knowing what's right and standing up for it, no matter your size or age. And today, you were brave too." The boy's smile returned, brighter and more confident than before. He understood now that courage wasn't just in heroic acts or grand gestures, it was in facing the small, everyday challenges with integrity and calm. As the flight soared toward Geneva, the sun glinting off the clouds like molten gold, Nadia held Ayan's hand gently. She felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing she had taught him more than just travel rules. She had shown him the power of dignity, patience, and resolve, the very qualities that defined a life of purpose. The airport incident would fade in memory, replaced by the mountains, chocolate, and adventure that awaited in Switzerland. But for Ayan, the lesson lingered, a story of courage and love he would carry forever, etched deeply like the pages of his newly restored passport. And as the plane sailed through the endless sky, Nadia allowed herself a small, knowing smile. Today, she had not only protected a child but also reminded a gate agent, and perhaps everyone watching, that respect and humanity are never subject to regulations.